Hey everyone, I'm Tassenix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, the Grand Arena focused podcast centered around the top 100 of Kyber 1 for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I am joined by the full ensemble here today. We have Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, interesting, first week for me. I went 2-1, only had one real match, fought Herbert, lost, and yes, it's kind of extra annoying because that was this. I had six other Erodiums in the brackets. That's my only real match, which was the same situation as the last week of 3 versus 3, and it's also the same as this coming week. I have Herbert and six Erodiums, so that's the path for me. Dagger, how you doing?
I'm not dead. And what? How did Beast Mode put? I'm here so I don't get fined.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about the news. Let me double check. I think my account went 2-1.
Sure.
So I'm still
Fair
in the
enough.
top 100. I have KP this round.
It's a fun fight. All right, appreciate you, TJ. Over to you. How was your week?
3-0, man. One of the
Wow,
rarities for me. Yeah, and
conquering
actually had a
hero.
really good bracket. Yeah, man. Was a really good week, had really good players, and I'm super excited for this week. Um, got Fatal in my bracket, got Vexatron, got a whole bunch of OG players, including Arsenal. So it's like, yeah,
Nice.
genuinely excited for the week coming up.
Fantastic. Glad to hear it. Sasha, Aisha, how about you? What's going on up there? Do you have any real players? Did you fight Nira? What'd you do?
I had one real match, and it did not involve one of those like banner snafus before, where you lose 50 points on a bug. So yeah, it was good. I won that match, but the rest were Rhodium, so it was technically a 3-0. But one thing that I'd say gives me optimism is that I spent more time this week reading content and messages from CG than I did playing GAC, and I don't think that there's been a time I've been able to see that in a long, long time. So
Yeah,
some of that is how short my GAC was, but I'm just delighted by Signs of Life.
very fair. All right, and last but never least, over to you, Fatal. How was the week?
It was a real weird thing. 2-1, and I was pretty much right about the season, except people are dropping things that perchance seem undroppable. Every round this week ended with me saying, okay, there's no way my opponent should lose this with everything they held on offense, and then inevitably things happened to them, and I was like, oh, hey, okay. Yeah, I'm back in the swing of things of, this is the first 5v5 season post Rollcrons. So I am officially back on the train of working on undersizing, and as I'm sure we'll get to, Vaincron and Balencron are kind of causing some friction around that, but other than that, seems like a fun enough season. Some interesting choices.
Dig that. All right. Well, we do have a regular agenda here for the show, but before we get into all that, yeah, as Fatal and Sasha had mentioned, yesterday was a huge news day in the game. Updates for the cantina, economy changes, whole bunch of stuff. It would be easy, an hour plus, for us to sit here and read through all that news, but fortunately, Fatal had a stream last night of his own to digest through all this, and hopefully we can get a bit of a redux on all the news. So, Fatal, why don't you kick us off? What do you got to say about everything that came out yesterday?
So I can't promise I'll hit everything perfectly. By all means, check out the posts on your own. Take what I say with a grain of salt, or don't assume that it's everything. But the big broad beat is kind of twofold or threefold. They did reveal the new era and that it's New Republic, but they didn't show every unit, assumingly because of spoilers, assumingly possibly because there might be a GL in there, because there is one reference to all allies being non-GL New Republic, which could be future-proofing, or could be a hint. Certainly with a movie coming, it could go either way. But yeah, the kits that we saw weren't too endgame oriented, seemed very new player friendly, so we don't have to worry about that today. We'll worry about the big picture when it comes. The rest of it is really almost kind of feels like part 2 of the anniversary update, where CG wanted to visually update the entire cantina to make it feel like it was made in a year ending in 2020 something rather than 2015. A lot of things have been reorganized, a lot of things have been updated and potentially improved. Lots of economy changes. So, easiest example that I think a huge chunk of this game will be happy to see or hear. Omega battles. Sorry, the wrong O. Omega battles now have 3 Zetas a pop, so that is an extra 21 Zetas per month. Following up on the Zeta front, the Cantina table now has a new row. And the Omicrons on the 8th row are now Zetas. And then there's new exclusive, or like old exclusive, but now just straight up Cantina farms like Grievous, Hermit Yoda, Wampa. IPD, I think, is the last character. Talking about ISB. On that 9th row, alongside some other stuff. Like, it was weird. We saw like green, blue, blue in that image for signal data. So there isn't too much to say about that stuff right now, because we don't know what the exact rates are. We know that the 9th row is going to cost more. But usually in the past, like if you think about GL tickets and stuff like that, CG pays a lot of attention to like relative drop rates relative to the node cost. So there will be lots of numbers crunched when we actually have more info on like, okay, so signal data on row 8 is like 16 or 18 or whichever it is, and then row 9 costs 20. So there might be some strategy going on of, if you're Zeta starved, I have no idea if 8 or 9 will give you more signal data, but maybe it's, do you need Zetas more and maybe you sacrifice or get a little bit more of signal data? Do you need Omicrons more? You know, it depends on which way the wind blows on whether 8 or 9 are higher. For all I know, maybe it's even, you just pick and choose based on what makes sense for you. Past that, there was a lot of stuff moved around that you see a lot of, like, you know, for exec, XP, Zeta Do Blood, and Cad Bane are packaged together, Houndstooth and Bosk are packaged together. Want to give a special shout out that they packaged BT1 and 000 together on the same node farm, which
Nice.
that seemed, I don't know if that's been done before, 2 characters together, like shipping character, yeah, but I don't know, that just seemed kind of crazy to me. Of like,
I feel like it has, just not good characters.
Yeah, this is just like, hey bud, you want to work on Afro? All right, chop chop, like get to it. That seemed like good flavor. A lot of other economy changes, table reshift changes, like I know mod challenges are dead, but tier 1 of mod battles becomes tier 3 of mod challenges, so you're just gonna like, you're just gonna go to mod battles, and I guess tier 1 is going to be mod challenge old equivalent, and there's only a tier 2, and that's just gonna be the 9 that we're used to. So that's gonna be like a quick one-stop shop. You know what? I'm just gonna skip straight. I'm not gonna bury the lead. I'm just gonna skip straight to the big thing, even though this isn't happening immediately. CD is retiring Squad Arena and replacing it with Training Mode, aka Sandbox.
At last.
There are some asterisks at the moment. Unfortunately, you can use Datacrons on offense, but not defense. And Omicrons do not work in the mode. But we are finally having that conversation. And they did specifically say Datacrons will be usable on offense, but not on defense at this time. So CG, I'm sure, is well aware, and everyone's giving their feedback on this. If you've got feedback to give as well, do so respectfully. But do let them know that it's a priority. But we are here. It is happening in game officially. You will fight against your own characters. The normal rules of the game apply. You know, the one big change that has been talked about from the difference between Squad Arena to this is you have to have the characters, right? You are literally fighting yourself. So if you do not have Pirate King Hondo, you cannot practice against Pirate King Hondo. Where technically in Squad Arena right now, you could, is like the one possible downside over the current system. You know, the rest, I assume, may be temporary, right? They literally say at this time. I assume defense Dacrons will be coming, but that is one hurdle. You know, there's plenty of ideas of like, it'd be cool if you could practice against guildmates. It'd be cool if you could practice against allies. You know, maybe that gives you ways to access content the way that you could in Squad Arena. But it is one thing to keep in mind. But yeah, man, we are in it. I am very, very excited for this. Finally, we have this stage of the game 10 years in. There's a lot of ideas and opportunities for content. There's a lot of ways that I can just directly show people, look, man, I've been a belligerent asshole about defense mods, and now I get to call them A, call them BU. Buckle the fuck up. Settle in. You're ready. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully people use it as we can, right? Of course, no Omicrons is not necessarily conducive. We know that for Squad. Well, I say it for Squad Arena. A lot of people seem to really still put a lot of stock into Squad Arena testing, so I'm hoping they don't go too crazy with freaking out over, like, oh my god, ISB in training mode can't do shit. And it's like, well, yeah, Partagaz doesn't have his G Omicron, man. But this is hitting in a future update. I don't know how future, but it's mentioned here, so I assume within 3 months. Fair. What's happening now is Era PvP, which I believe CG promised at the end of last year in the anniversary posts. They more or less told us this was coming at the early next year, and lo and behold, we are in early next year, and it did come. The prophets. How did they know this? It seems to be a sort of Squad Arena mode for arenas, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to entail like taking rank 1. They talk about earning banners, which tends to be more GC coded, but they say you'll earn banners based on your best battle of that day, and the banners determine your ranking on the leaderboard. So this is kind of more like a Coliseum, you know, put up your best PvP fight, and that will determine your score, rather than like we are not returning to shard chats and sniping people and locking out fights and having to be around at an hour of a day. That is not what we are going back to. Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God. And yeah, they're also adding loaned units. You know, I know this era especially, there was a lot of conversation about like, dude, we went 2 months without having to play with Cassie as a rebel leader. Like, Saw Gerrera was even right there in the team, but we couldn't have Saul lead. ISB, you know, came last and have a lead, but it was also like we didn't really have a full fleshed out team. Loaned units are coming in. And so my assumption is, I mean, they gave us the loaned units list for this era, but like to use the Andor era as an example, like I assume Saw Gerrera would be a loaned unit and you could just run Saw lead. As it happens in the next era, Mon Mothma is one of the loaned units, so Mon Mothma lead will assumingly be in that conversation for like, yeah, okay, we can do Mon Mothma Rebel Fighters and see how it feels with, as like a Rebel Fighter droid, New Republic Rebel Fighter droid, who likes to be assisting a lot, so that'll be something to explore.
Dig that.
And last but not least, to try to make the era PvP spicier, they are not adding mods. A, because it wouldn't work with the time, and B, because you can't. If the goal of eras is to put everyone together, you can't have year 10 Andy with 225 plus speed mods playing against Billy 2 weeks ago, who just started playing the game and does not know what is going on. That would be bad.
I'm in danger.
And so Overcharge is their take on trying to make a way to customize stats and add some theory crafting texture without adding the complexity of mods and also making sure that it just like resets per era. They pay some lip service that it sounds like a lot of it will just kind of just be earned as you play. I'm sure that there will be monetization options for that. But they did also say that like it sounds like when you overcharge a character, you can just tweak and tinker as much as like if you they didn't give us enough details that this sentence might make 0 sense when it actually hits. But the point being, if I'm just like, oh man, I want to overcharge for speed. Wait, this sucks. I need defense. It's not like you have to re-overcharge to swap that. It's just like, you know, it like for people who played stuff like League, it's like a rune page almost seemingly, right? It's just like, okay, you got your runes, you can fill that capacity however you want. And if you decide that doesn't work, then you just switch it to something else, and the capacity is the same. So yeah, details kind of pending on how that's going to feel. I don't know when this stuff hits. I don't know if that's just going to come with the New Republic era in a week. I assume it will, but I guess we will see.
Yeah, next major feature update. I don't know. It feels soon. It feels soon. But well, thank you first of all for that. Very efficient breakdown of all the news. What's on your mind, guys? What do you guys have to say about this?
Can I say one thing first?
Oh, by all means.
Sorry, I know this has been long, but there is a very, very important because people feel a certain way about eras and the whole era system. At the end of the post, CG said, "We've seen concerns that our recent focus on eras means that we're moving away from the rest of the game. That's not our intent. Our eras are designed to build on top of, not replace." And then over the next 15, 20, 25 lines of text directly call out that they are putting TB, TW, GAC ships conquest on the roadmap. Not in that order. Not in that priority order. But just the core features are up next, is basically what they're saying. We did what we wanted to do with eras. We've got ideas for these other modes. That is next on the deal, on the bargain. So that's the closest that we've gotten to saying something like a GAC and TW are being worked on.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they just also up this new era is going to have a max of 135?
Sure is.
So
they'll go up to R8 now?
So yeah, they said that they said we're adding 40 freely accessible era levels, and then they said it caps out at Relic 8.
So then 40 paid levels on top of that.
Well,
I don't think it's necessarily 40 paid levels on top of it. I think we need to wait and see that.
I'm making a joke about they're giving us 40 levels, but then raising the max by 40 levels.
Yeah, you can go all the way to R8 now, so people can actually buy their way that way.
It really depends on what they let us hit, like free or cheap to play. Because if we can still only hit like level 75 cheap or free to play, then like, what are we doing here, right?
Well, that's why it's like they just don't give any information about the era level changes in this. That like, it could literally mean anything. It could mean that like free to play Crystal Hoarders are still stuck at 75. It could mean that there's suddenly 115. I do not really know.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just saying that I find that amusing that they said we're going to get 40 free levels, but then they also were like, and we're raising the limit. But it is cool that if you want to put the money in, you can get these units at R8.
I mean, to be honest, like, even if the prices went unchanged and it still went R8, I still wouldn't do it. But the model of Coliseum, when it came out, being like, hey, do you want to pay absolute premium prices to like take this character to R5 or R6? And by the way, we just made R5 and R6 extremely easy.
Do you want me to show you the 4 people in my shard who have level 95 everything? People are gonna do it.
I'm happy for CG that people like them can fund the game.
Yeah,
those are people for whom value proposition is a long forgotten word, I assume.
That's fair.
I think just to be fair to that side of it, though, there are people who don't have our hoard of materials, so at least it gives them a way that if they don't have it, they have the opportunity to pay for it, right? Because it kind of levels the playing field for us who have been in the game long enough. you've built your history up. I'm going to get to the bare minimum I can to get the job done because everything else just stashed and stored. Versus somebody's like, I'm just starting the game. Because I think I've seen a couple 12 millions or something else, and they have 95s, but they have the opportunity to do that. So they have a bigger foot and less to try to worry about once they come actually to the game.
Did they mention anything about giving more signal data? Because I know that that's like I don't want to say the last bottleneck, but that's right now, I think, the biggest bottleneck for a lot of people.
Signal data was not mentioned at all, but Zetas are kind of the big one that everyone was clamoring for that got hit here. I mean, well, okay. Signal data was mentioned insofar as we don't know what the heck this new Cantina node means for the game. But there was no promise of like this new Cantina node is gonna double your signal data, right? That's just we will have to see.
The only one I thought was funny was the addition of the Enoch level. We're going to double your currency. And they called that specific number. What was it, Fatal? Like 419%. It was such a specific, that's why I call it the Enoch level. It was like, it was very specific on the number and it wasn't like a 100, 200.
Yeah,
so their currency was, go ahead.
Your era currency, it's doubled for spenders, up by 490% for episode pass, and free to play get about 344% more.
Yeah, so I mean, I do like that, and it looks like they're giving more Lightspeed tokens or reducing the price.
Yeah,
something.
Yes.
Yeah.
3,500,
Yes, I
right? I
remember
think it
seeing
dropped
that.
from 5,000 to 3,500.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
so now that Relic 10 is a little more established, they're just going to open, I shouldn't say the floodgates, they're going to make it a little more accessible, it looks like.
Yeah.
I gotta say,
catch up mechanics.
I was really hard. Like I mentioned it in my opening greeting. Like I was really positive on this. Maybe it's because I'd set a low bar, but and because it's addressing some real fears of mine. But like, first of all, it was very classic, like quintessential CG, in that like kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. I mean, yes, some of it's predictable, but some, after just a long period of silence, in many ways, it raises more questions than it answers.
Right.
It is directionally feels pretty darn strong at a detail level, or with some specificity, perhaps not, but like the biggest high level takeaway for me, which was really important for me in this game, was like genuinely a sign of life. And that it's not just like the level of communication, but the clear and deliberate investment in onboarding new players and accelerating their path to sort of a healthy enjoyment of the game. If we want to keep playing this, that's the lifeblood that has to continue to flow. The reference to GAC and TW, I know this is grasping on to like literally nothing but those words and to describe
legacy.
some point though.
Legacy modes. What was it? The specific language was modernize. A key part of our roadmap is continuing to improve and modernize legacy systems across the game. You should infer that to me.
And they
TW.
called out GAC and TW. Mentioning those by name. So, like that was no, it's no problem. But that was really, really big to me. The sandbox thing, fantastic in general. Unless I misread it, it leaves us on a temporary period without any opportunity in game for an individual to just test the mechanics of new Datacron sets. And that's a concern, but again, one that they just mention as like, at least initially. So that was my reaction. Like I'm just excited because I think, I'm not saying it bodes great, but it bodes better for the future of the game than I had been fearing. Yeah. And so I came out of it with that positive reaction.
You can test Datacrons, just not on defense.
Yeah, so you can test out how teams work on offense. And I think that is more important than testing them on defense, at least initially. So that kind of makes some sense. The other thing I just want to touch on too is I know we were talking about this in the TAS House chat earlier today, but the last TW rework was September of 2021. The GAC rework was December of 2021, and Rote came out in December of 2022. It has been a long time since they've done anything really with these PvP modes. And I mentioned TB just to show that they haven't done a ton with PvE either, right? So I really, like Sasha said, this did give me a lot more faith going forward. And the little behind the scenes thing. The fact that I'm here today shows how positive and happy I am with these posts. Because otherwise, I would not have made time for this.
So,
Or you
uh,
know what I mean? Like I am
the
so
only thing,
excited for these changes. The only thing that makes me a little annoyed is the era arena PvP thing feels an awful lot like tournaments. And if it ends up being just another Coliseum, like pass.
so I'm
Not that I
gonna
won't do it. It just whatever. You know what I mean? It's boring. Whatever.
I'm gonna comment it from this way, just watching everybody's takes on it and then reading all of the posts and everything else. This feels like a very large kit with a lot of words thrown in between. Um, that's how I want to leave it, but I want to call out a couple of things. The loan units, we don't know anything about, and there was a lot of discussion in the data mines and everything else that there was a way to add cost to picking up these loan units. So basically, a character that's a datacron, essentially, right? It's just time perspective. You get to add it in. How does that apply? How do the other levels that they're going to apply with the data that you're going to pull back? And also, I will call out one cool thing. Now, when you get your character shards, it's not going to cost you. I think the currency for it. Once you get your shards, you get the character, and I think that goes to they are in the arena. Even if you still take first, you get the currency, right? You can still go pick up the currency, like your million credits. So I know they're adjusting that, but I think it's a definitely kind of let's wait and see what it actually means before you kind of make a judgment call. Just because I'm concerned that they're going to try to monetize something else, and it feels like the currency level is already pushing a lot of monetization. So just just
They
just be wary.
they did tell us how we were going to level up the loan units and how they would function.
Okay.
So they did tell us that. They didn't tell us how we would get the currency, but they did say that we would get oh, what I need to go search for it now. But they told us
It's
we'd
like
get these
gateway
tokens that would
messages.
upgrade our
Yeah,
unit,
they'll send tokens out
and they would
that apply.
increase your unit, your loan units roughly. It seems like with whatever your units, your
Right.
non-loan units are. So it looks like they've already kind of the only like, but I do share. It's not a concern. It's more of a trepid. I don't even know what the word would be. Not trepidation.
It's just being aware, man. I think it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
awareness
It's
for what's
calling out
going
the
on.
yeah. It's calling out the awareness of there's additional monetization coming to eras, and it's going to be more than $800 in era now, which is more than a little annoying if you want to like go all in to like get the era unit at 7 stars. It was about 800 to 850 if you were unlucky up until now, and it does look like that price is going to go up if you want to compete.
I will just
So
continue to maintain. Look, man, the shard rerolls every 3 months. I've been
Yep.
lucky that I've gotten casual shards so far.
Fair.
Look, if I get 10 people who are spending their ass off, all right, man, I'll take the halved rate or whatever for 3 months. That's fine. You could have that. Like,
oh yeah, I found it's relatively easy or cheap to compete for the first 2 months, and then once they release the era unit, who unlock, I find that the spending kind of kicks in then. So if you're willing to put a few bucks in up front, you can generally do okay for the first couple months. But yeah, like you said, shards are so activity dependent. But I was more referring to 7 starring the unit. But yeah, that's also true.
Sounds good. Any other final comments you guys wanted to include on this latest news? No? All right. Dagger, I know that you had to get going. You wanted to make sure that you could at least get in here for the commentary
Yep.
on the latest. So thanks for joining us.
Yep, love you guys. Good luck the rest of the show. I'm sure that TJ and Fatal will have a lot to say, and you and Sasha will talk about your one fight.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, guys.
Take care. All right, guys, you know the drill. Let's dig into it. Meta-analysis and favorite fights for week 1. Pirate King Hondo. So, folks, we're finding out real early in the season, or in the week rather, that Quiggled in there with one of the Scoundrel Crons. You could run the the basic reset level 6, or the 2% turn meter when debuffs expire level 6. Those were proving really nasty with Quiggled, specifically towards Slacker. Otherwise, the one-size-fits-all solution this week seems to be Balin. Balin, Shin, Marok, Dengar, and Han. The doubt from Dengar is great. You plug Vayne with Han's basic off rip, and you generally, I've found, have had the offense where you could choose to go after the other sides, then Vayne, or you could be safer and go after Vayne directly, then the sides. It played the same either way for me. I think I saw one player in the patron chat that had 2 of their characters die, but still managed to limp out. Whereas I was seeing people just getting straight out, just put away when they were using Slacker. So, what do you guys have to say about fighting Pirate King this week?
I did not have any issues with SLK versus Vayne.
Yeah, maybe I'm
will
misremembering.
say-
I thought I saw a fight go bad for you, or maybe it was going bad for you in round 1, and then I must have looked
sorry.
away and you recovered or something.
I did not have problems with SLK versus Quiggled specifically.
Oh,
What am I to say? No, I mean I lost one SLK, but I lost because I played it fucking terribly.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see the whole fight. It was one of those I turned away for a second. I turned back and said, "Oh, that's not going well for him."
I mean, the simple breakdown is on Darkray's first turn, I pressed the AoE that gave everyone retribution, and it turns out Huck's counterattacking and giving his advantage away. It's a pretty fucking stupid thing to be doing, especially when your opponent has the 2 to 4% turn meter datacron. And I just got infinitely lapped for the rest of the match, and that was that. And then I changed my gameplay, and that was no longer a problem.
All right, yeah, we can take that. How about the rest of you guys? Well, first of all,
I didn't see PKH. I did not see, so.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise you. When you're fighting those Phantom's Menace guys, they've been pulling Pirate King the last couple seasons of 5s. So, interesting that set 25 does not appear to have changed their behavior there. TJ, anything you had to include?
I didn't really. I kind of. I perfected my Balin. I think that was one of those general things. So I really took the time to kind of diagnose what I thought was more the optimized fight tactic towards that.
Mhm.
And I stuck true to it. And so one was like a 64 or 63, and then one was more like a 65. Just who to attack when, what you're supposed to do. Again, I think you were right. I happen to have an R10 Balin, so that that kind of adds to some oomph on the back end. But it's just the whens and the whats of how you're approaching it. Because I saw some straight up just fails, and I would call that user error as we are looking through the week. I wasn't playing with those options just because where I was facing and the people, it was good defense. I didn't see the OG Hondo, and I think that's relevant just because where Balin's going to go or something else. But yeah, and everything else, I was watching some pretty bad horror stories. If even for a second, the team was allowed to start taking turns.
Fair. Very fair. All right. Let's catch the next team here. Up to that. So yeah, fighting DVDE. You'll see there in my round 2, TJ popped into the chat and shared his feedback from the attempt he'd managed to get in ahead of me. I've seen a few content creators have a rough time with this counter, and I pulled it off. I will say you have to play it very carefully, and then I guess you have to just not get super unlucky with a death mark and then a follow-up from DVD at an awkward point in the fight. But on a sample size of 1, it felt like something I would risk again. Yeah. Any other counters or news to report about fighting a DVD team, guys?
For me, it was I tried DTMG once, and Yeah, every single character on that team was built with 3 defense sets, 4 protection primaries, just to really say fuck you to the death mark. And still, it was just like, my Moff Gideon didn't even get to take a turn for like the first 2 turns of the match, and it just did not feel good. Saw Gerrera just easily dispatches that team. Just right. Kara corrects Kyle, and they just don't get to play the video game. It feels pretty clean and easy. So I pivoted over to that, and I am pretty content there.
Good.
I had Leia left, and that was a slam dunk. So, but I considered holding Saw for that. I decided I just was too excited to at least be able to set my turret and bays, which was like one shot for 66 by an undermanned Reba squad. But I had, going up against the opponent that only said, I think, 1 or 2 GLs, I'd overkill left. So not a ton of learning there.
Getting that. Yeah. Ray Ezra. So yeah, I think a lot of us are seeing folks setting Ray Ezra this season. Certainly folks starting off this week with the Chodakron. Slacker did get through it for me as a bloody affair, and I will say that, had I not been planning to use Slacker, I wonder if I might have just, set Slacker down, pulled Stranger up, and enjoyed what appears to be, for most people, a pretty smooth 65 as opposed to something like a 52 or a 53 with Slacker. So, I will say the best encounters I've seen are the ones where they're taking Cal. They've got Cal in instead of Visas for the extra cushion. And then as far as executing the fight successfully, I'm seeing people use Spider Maul's first turn to basic Exile Ezra and make sure Fracture's there. And then otherwise, you're killing you're just wait, I'm mixing up fights in my head actually. Yeah, no. You are using Spider Maul to lock down Exile Ezra, and yeah, the other trick would be to save the ship drop. You got to pick your moment with that. You have two ways of doing that. You either kill Rey before her first ultimate, and you know that you're going to do that, so it's okay to ship drop, or you save it until after Rey's first ultimate, and ideally you're going to use it once you feel like you're not going to be taking any other big hits. And that's how you get that 65 perfection at the end. Any other comments about fighting Ray Ezra this week? I see you had a note here.
Yeah, it's I would be doing Zori if I could R9 my bag bros, but seeing as the Andor era is bearing down on us and here to kill us all, yeah, I'm sticking with QA. It's still like if you run the 5-man, it is practically plays itself. It's just complete overkill.
And when we say 5-man, are we talking about Cam and Gas?
I never use Gas. I use Cam and Grandmaster Yoda because Yoda is basically just a second Qui-Gon in terms of the support to health. Support health to offense conversion.
Sure.
Yeah, Yoda does damage just as well as Qui-Gon does. A lot of good effects and tools for like controlling Ezra, stunning Ezra. The shielding helps with during ults. Foresight helps at times. Yeah, he's just a excellent fifth. When I fought the Chodakron, I didn't use Yoda. I just did the 4-man, and that was like. There was like one spot where maybe I misplayed and left myself open for a Whirlwinds, but because it's Rey, she just did a Whirlwind because she had ults. But yeah, on the last round, I fought a pretty decently high defense Kron, and Chodakron doesn't actually have that much defense. So I didn't know if I was confident doing the 4-man into super defense. So I brought Yoda as the fifth. Both went fine for 65, 66.
Good to know. Good to know. It's interesting. So you just think that you're not really feeling at risk Because the reason people are bringing gas is the no crits out of turn, right? So you haven't felt that kind of pressure. You think that you've got yourself covered between, the foresights from Grandmaster and then the added damage he's bringing with your setup.
Well, the race squad never really crits out of turn. I mean, I guess if you let Ezra flip, then he's calling people to assist, but I still never really felt scared of the assist or whatever. I just assume people are running gas because they aren't really familiar with Cam and how he works, and so they run gas because they think, oh, gas is a good damage dealer, and then they skip some of the best damage dealers this faction has access to. Yeah, like, I mean, I'm a big gas plug and play enjoyer, but like Ezra stops cooldown increasing, and I don't, if characters like Cal are there, then I don't think you're really getting opportunities for health pool decreasing. That, while I enjoy gas in a lot of contexts, I just don't really see an appeal here. Like, I'm fully like, look, I put my Master Qui-Gon on turbo mods to try to like set up for a 3v5 scenario, and I was kind of concerned this week of like, is Master Qui-Gon going to feel like he's doing not enough damage? For switching off of the damage set, going to the speed set, focusing on speed secondaries. He was still doing 410k per basic compared to Pow doing like 270k, right? Like that, you put Cam in the team, Qui-Gon is still that guy. Like, yeah, it just works. It just feels good, and Yoda as well, so.
Nice. Yeah, I think a lot of people myself included, are starting to think about using gas more as a member than a lead, since people had found the usefulness of gas as a member under Queen versus Stranger. So I was just curious about that. Thanks.
JML gas is excellent for people who have not tried it.
I imagine. Yeah.
You gas cast lesson, and then what does he do right after? He does the AoE. You get 2 for 1.
All right. Next team. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Anything else from you guys about Ray Ezra?
Yes.
Please.
I went the old way, so I kind of flipped it. I liked the Maulcron, but it doesn't necessarily need to go on Starkiller Maul. I know we talked about it, and I feel like I was going to go with one of my better defense turn meter crons, just let the team go wild and let them do their stuff. Just because, as we talked about, we really don't have a tank. So I wanted to play into that to allow the team just to do its thing, and it did well for me. The Malkron actually has really decent stats. So I ended up doing old school Seer. I took Visas as my 5th, along with ATF, so just damage dealers along. The fight felt fine for me. It came back with the 62, and I'll take it for what it was. But at the no point did I feel like I was in trouble. That allowed me to turn it up. So it was cool. It was a cool use of being able to take the team and then Visas. I like her level 3 with the setup, and then take it with the stats. So that felt pretty safe for me. And it's cool to see that Seer Starkill or that Seer with no Starkill and all, I can still do good things.
Fair. Anything from you? Anything interesting from you, Sasha, on the Ray Ezra front?
I did not see Ray Ezra. I did see, I will say, related to the Malcron, I did see a Ray with the Malcron, and I thought like a neat use of Barris there, because Barris has a mechanic on that cron that means that revives can't be prevented. So if you were to bring like Seer Malikos, you're not going to be able to keep Ben from coming back. Didn't really matter, didn't factor into the counter I was using. But so I did not see a Ray with battle.
All right. I just noticed that I didn't actually put it in the topic list, but as far as fighting Stranger goes, I mean, I'd be remiss to not mention it. Now, as TJ just alluded to, when he and I were strategizing for that one round last week, he convinced me to give a shot, setting a 25% dark side turn meter with my Stranger team in the back, and then I did have that Maul Cron available with my Seer Malikos, and that was great. I mean, that was fine. I can't recall what I clobbered, but I do recall that it wasn't close. I can tell you that. As far as fighting Stranger, though, folks are trying Satil this week, right? And I've heard some mixed success, but mostly positive. It sounds like the one thing you need to do is to mark down and blow up Visas, and then you can go after Stranger, Star Killer next, then Stranger, and so on. Uh, as far as failure points go, I don't have a ton of information. I've seen it where, if you kill it, most people, if they don't have enough bulk on their Visas, JKR will be the last to assist on his mark, and it is possible that the target is dead before his assist executes, so you won't get the cooldown reduction. That could slow you down tempo wise and give you a problem until you're available to go after Stranger later. The other thing is, don't be a dodo like me and save Bastila's buffs to put on whoever you like. I like JKR, but do that after Starkiller takes his first turn and purges off all the buffs. Yeah, why make life hard on ourselves? What do you guys have to say about fighting Stranger this week, and if you have experience in particular, the Satil versus Stranger setup?
Well, I can go quickly. I did not use Satil in part because my opponent said, as did I, the 25% turn meter cron, which it made me a little bit wary about my Satil's viability as a counter. And I went into it knowing I had banners to spare. So I brought a combo that I thought confident would give a one shot, even though it was going to bleed to high hell. So call it like a 1.5 shot. And that was C, Treya, Savage, Talon, and I don't know, somebody else that died right away. And at the end, yeah, only my C survived because it was pretty bloody. But that's what I ended up bringing. And I will say my Stranger, when I set, like I said, the same thing, a 25% turn meter Datacron with a good amount of health and defense on it, was able to, I think. I don't know if you have my history there, Tass. I'm on the move, so I can't check it. But it did get a hold, and I think it got a hold against a pretty solid counter. Did he bring? Do you happen to have it there, Tass?
Your Stranger, he took in Pirate King with OG Hondo, Brutus,
Yes,
Vayne, and
timed out.
Silvo using the Vayne Cron.
And
Yeah.
timed out. Right. So yeah, I felt good about my defensively, even if like I shed a ton of banners offensively, bringing that C plus cannon fodder.
Nice. Any other comments fighting Stranger this week, guys?
Yeah, I stuck. Go ahead, Pedal. You do yours. No. Go ahead, man. I enjoy what you have your idea.
Uh-huh. Fight nice now. Let everybody talk at once.
Oh,
My Discord dropped.
No, we
So-
actually. Oh, that's a Discord issue. Yeah, I saw a flicker on the whole program for a second. So okay.
so back to Fatal. You handle. You go first, and I'll go.
Yeah, please.
Nobody posted Stranger. People were too busy boasting god awful teams for me to undersize for 68 to 69 banners.
Okay, fair enough.
Perfect. So I stuck to Bad Batch. I called it out that I wanted to go back. I felt confident that I could do it because I thought people were going to go with the Malcron, and 2 for 2, no problem. Walked in confident. I will say a little more love and effort had to go in for the timing for round 1, and this was 3 relic tins. But I went through it just fine.
Can you tell people?
And then round 3.
Well, can you tell the people how this works? Like what's how do you proceed with this counter? And are there limitations to it? Are there compositions to watch out for? Does it make a difference to you if you saw the Spider Malcron FDC or the set 25? Sorry, the 25% dark side turn meter.
25%.
Yeah.
The Exotron actually faced a 25%, and the only thing that saved him against that fight, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Keyway. He used Bad Batch. It still plays. There's just not a lot of bulk or behind the team, and once once what I call the engine of doing all the work goes away, you just pick it apart from there. So once your star killer is gone, so he's marked, you're a proper crosshair. Fatal's talked about it. We've talked about it on the show. Gets to that point, he gets shaken off super fast. Fatal, what did you call it? This is a crutch. Because I think it still works. But right now, with that crosshair cron, it's just ungodly easy to get shaken. And then crosshairs popping for 500,000, a million, or whatever the numbers are. They're high yellows. I've recorded some of the fights. But that's really it. And Batcher gets to take an ungodly amount of turns with the setup. So as long as you have some kind of base understanding of what your turn order is, your team is going, Batcher's going to mark your star killer, Crosshair's going to be shaken, the shaken's going to be off. It kind of just falls into place. I'm more of a fan that when Visas is there, she doesn't get to bring back no toys. Once they're gone, they get to stay gone. And generally by that setup on turn meter, either she's already gone or she's about to go, and I'm able to go right next to with Batcher again to mark off Visas and then pick her off.
Okay.
Variations. I thought it was cool trying to do Katoki. He tried to do Old Ben, and I'm sure it was leaning towards the Satil. I will say the Old Ben did go and try to ability block me, but it didn't change anything. I've heard some things about Gas being in there as the 5th, but I just don't know what it's going to matter. Like I said, I love the Bad Batch. Have loved them for a long time. My team's all R9. I would be, if you're looking at like a Relic Delta, I guess 2. I don't think it's going to matter against the Kron personally. Maybe you might lose sight of the fight, but it feels good for me, and it could be just because I put a lot of love and care into my Bad Batch. I don't play with that.
Fair. All right, appreciate that. Let's talk about Saw. Now, I've seen folks do Treya. I myself tried Savage lead, knowing that Treya lead last season in 3 versus 3 let me down versus Saw, and that was with the Kyle Katarn Mercenary Cron, right? This week was the debut of the Chirrut Datacron from our latest set. And yeah, even if you don't put a particular amount of emphasis into the offense on your Chirrut, time is not on your side. He simply isn't, indefinitely stacking offense and something else. And essentially, it doesn't matter how tanky your team is. If the fight goes on long enough, they will overwhelm your defenses. You will lose your Savage, and everything will fall apart after that. And I don't know if any of the rest of you have experiences using that Treya or Savage-led team, but as far as I can see, like it's a counter that you have to be on top of time-wise to get it done in 3 versus 3. I did not see a window. I mean, I was looking. I did not see a single window to get an Annihilate that I couldn't have spent on the the summon. Like I just beat down phase on that enemy team.
Hey, Tass, I had a chance to watch that recording of your tech and a couple PSAs, if I could share on
Please.
that. One really quickly for anybody that's out there listening. Like I know you mentioned in your stream that you were considering to use the Nihilist Cron, or do you go with like a high defense? Do not use the Nihilist Cron. If you use the Nihilist Cron and you bring Savage, he can't heal from his HOTS. So I'm glad you didn't do that. But just so people know, don't use the Nihilist Cron with Savage generally. I mean, it exposes, particularly one that is so resilient like yours at R10, who's going to heal a ton, but he won't if that Cron's on. Because that Cron, if you're using Nihilus as lead in that with
specifically,
that Cron.
okay, that makes sense. Yeah, the Cron isn't. So what do you have to? So don't use the Nihilus lead for sure. I do remember talking that over.
So don't
on
use
stream.
the Nihilus lead, right? The second factor is you actually don't want a lot of offense. At least I don't, in my experience. I don't want a lot of offensive stats if I'm bringing a Treya or Savage led combo against that Saw squad, because the mechanics for the summon, which is effectively the tank that is so annoying and that keeps you focused there and you can't annihilate anybody else. That summon has to take 2 moves before he drops focus, like whatever the marked. Excuse me. So you actually don't want to kill him. You need to make sure he gets 2 moves out of the way. He'll drop marked, and then you can go and you take out Saw or you take out whoever you'd like. But you want to not kill him in his first 2 moves if you can.
Well, that sounds
And
like that actually might be easy to do then, because most everybody's running Chirrut and Baze, which means, we're doing what you're saying.
Right,
I
It's
can
part of
just
the
choose to hit
DC.
Baze.
You want that because it's a part of the DC. But I also wanted to comment a note from Fatal Stream. Fatal, that if I'm not mistaken, I can't remember which fight it was. You were doing the fight, and it looked like the mark wasn't there on the character, right? The summon, but you were still stuck. Thoughts? That's what I saw happen. But if it was, I just because I know you had the fight down pat, and I know you were commenting during your stream.
I mean, so to be clear on that fight, like the base was off to the right, and I never looked at the base. So for all I know, maybe the base was taunting. I don't really entirely remember at this point.
Mhm.
B, it's like, so I think that to be clear, I'm specifically talking about the Kyle Kron matchup. I do not think Treya should be used against Chiricron. Like,
Okay.
yeah, that's just there. You are there for a long time and there for a good time and a long time, and that's just. I mean, look, if you really just know that, like, okay, this specific clocking, I can just hit the annihilate on Chirrut, maybe. But the flip side of what Sasha said is, does the mark fall off? Yes. But Luthen also puts it back on. And so what you have are narrow windows of the mark dropping,
Right.
then, like, one hallmark of my fight is, like, well, I don't know if Baze was taunting when I thought there was a bug. I can tell you that I did not isolate Baze, and so, like, that would be the first ingredient to even, like, having that conversation.
Yeah, and I did isolate Baze and quickly killed him, so knowing what I know now, I should have just used the isolate on the summon and kept Baze just to hit.
I don't think isolate would stop the mark, because mark is a negative effect. And
We're not.
isolate stops
No.
positive.
The point would be to get the cooldown reduction out for Nihilus, but also not specifically isolate Baze, so I would have the discretion to hit Baze. Kind of a thing. That's what I was thinking.
The summon that I was fighting was plenty tanky, which is kind of where I was going to go next, which is, I think Treya versus Rebel Fighters right now is kind of in an awkward spot where Kyle Katarn puts out enough pressure that, like, for example, I was using a 400% defense Kron with Savage lead, but that does not put you at defense cap. My Treya was largely built for damage and ended up getting popped. That, like, a natural takeaway from her getting popped would be, okay, maybe her mods need to shift to defense and health as well. But their team was quite tanky that, frankly, even when I was doing some big damage moves sometimes, they weren't really moving. And so, like, you might be in the eye of the beholder of whatever stats your opponent has on their DC, because people seem to have pretty static Luthens. But while it is true that you don't want to kill the summon too fast, if anything right now, my feeling is even when I wanted to accelerate and kill the summon, I was having trouble doing so with a full-blown just sheer defense Kron. And so I think it might just be a weird situation where you are being asked to represent a lot of defense as well as still needing to be able to represent damage. It might just be too much at once. If I was going to pursue it for week 2, I would make Treya tankier and in her mods, continue to run the tank run and see if I can't just grind it out on annihilates. But frankly, at that point, we're having conversations about there's only 5 minutes in a match.
Yeah, so if you were inclined in week 2 to use Treya or Savage lead at all, you would only do it against the Kyle Katarn Datacron. You would not attempt it against Chirrut. And even then, it doesn't sound like it's that great of a fight. Which does bring us to the reliable counter here for the week. I see we all have, at least some of us have notes on that. Yeah, Grand Inquisitor Kron. with Riva. That is a snap. Now, I had one fight. I did 65 it. I have seen Fatal stream. I saw you go for the 66. Tell us more about your experience with that.
The Inquisitor Kron is extremely broken. You don't need to bring a fifth. That's about it. Just kill the summon.
I see you noted. You think you might not even need the fourth.
Yeah, like if I so basically, if you know the Luthen doesn't understand how the protection transfer works, and you just either really needed the gamble or whatever, so be it. Like the 66 is like seemingly undroppable. Like it just you just aim the summon, you kill him, everyone snowballs. The enemy team never takes a single turn. It is
complete non-participation.
One of the easiest matchups to exist. And so it's like, it's a slight question of like, would it be possible to get a 67 out of it if we just, I don't know, push the damage on everyone or manage to just eke it out in some way? Mm-hmm. I think I'm probably just going to keep clocking in 66 and look for banners elsewhere. But it is a nature of that matchup where it's just like so one-sided that, there's just questions of how far does this thing go?
Fair.
Only thing I wanted to note for us who did not have the Inquisitor Kron, I didn't get to roll that until midweek or two. And again, it was against the Kyle Kron, but I could still see the mechanics. I was able to use the Barris Kron with normal team add in Barris, and it still felt clean. So Inquisitors overall still feel like the strong counter to Saw, which is cool because it's obviously otherwise can cause some big nightmares. I think the other one I've seen, which is pretty consistent, is Jabba. A lot of folks are going towards, obviously with the bus, you're pushing out and everything else. It's like Boba loves that type of stuff. It was a killer before, it's a killer again. Felt consistent as one of the go-tos for that. If you're not trying to place the job on defense, which obviously 11 slots, that can happen a lot.
Mm-hmm. Next one I wanted to mention that I didn't make a note of earlier was just fighting Balin. I didn't fight one this week. I've heard folks doing Bad Batch 2 successfully. Of course, Slacker gets it done. Bane sounds pretty bad, actually. JML, considering that if they've got Dengar in there with the doubt, JML really doesn't want to have to deal with that. What intel do you guys have about fighting Balin?
So for me specifically, and I'm going to call the good luck out because I wasn't even thinking about it. And I know Fatal said it several times. I did DTMG round 1, but I did not get the lock on the OG. So, I've watched TOA's video, and his was, man, if Hondo looks at your OG Hondo, you are in so much trouble. Like I can see
your OG
where the
Gideon, you mean? If he looks at the OG.
I mean Gideon's, yeah. Sorry, too many OGs, but
Hondos.
So just if that's what it was, right? So for mine, I saw in the data, and I actually saw Scribe try this too, getting to take the bros, but I feel like you were lessening your great mothers up. So I'm like, I don't see anything about it. Let me just try the old school combo, and it was fine. I actually really dig Enoch on that team. To me, he brings a lot of success to help because he stabilized it a bunch. I eventually had to get it down to the lone OG, and that's just OG Hondo because obviously the Super Hondo is super scary, but it just feels so good. So if you're willing to risk it, to me, DTMG has one of the highest callings this season because he's taking out some of what I consider the toughest teams in the market. It's just so good with that Gideon Kron doing the work.
Fair. Just another brief honorable mention real quick to the one Jabba I fought, because TJ just reminded me about this. So, So Herbert had set a 350+% defense on his Jabba team. And I did have JMK to go at it, but I also had Afra, and I do have very well kitted Afra and friends. I had the FDC available, but 350% defense is a lot. So I was reticent to go with it. And I hemmed and hawed a bit. I talked with TJ. I talked with the chat. Eventually, almost reluctantly, I pulled the trigger on it. And BT1 wasn't having nobody shit. People went away.
It's
It was a lot of things. It was not close. I will do
it's
that
just
again.
so good.
Yeah, I don't care if that was closer up to 400%. I wager I would have been just fine regardless.
Just for the people to understand, I pushed a lot at Tass because Tass has some of like specialty modding when it comes to characters. He puts we talk about it, but you will never truly understand how much care he puts in. And I knew what his BT1 would be capable of, which is why I kept telling him. He's like, "What about 367? What about this percent?" I was like, I just knowing the fight because it unlocks basically, right? You take B2 because of what's going on, but the fight just unlocks naturally, and Bausch can't hang because of what's coming off of that IG90 cron. Where I'm like, Tass, I think you're going to be able to be just fine on this, man, because you're going to clear the taunt. You're going to go mark Bausch, and there's nothing she can do. The team cannot hang with what Afra is doing.
Fair. Very fair. I was very impressed. And it's just you have to be able to get rolling with BT1, which means that somebody squishy's gotta go early in the fight. And that's really the big risk with high defense. What happens if that doesn't happen? Then you get stalled out and people start going away. That was not the case. So really just happy to see that it doesn't appear that there's an amount of defense you can stick on Java that's going to stop that FDC. All right. Next team, Cody Cron, real quick. Just wanted to give an honorable mention to that one. You'll see Cody, Fives, Krex, Kicks, and somebody. I want to say Echo. I've been seeing a couple of times. Makes sense with Fives, right? As far as a bottom front team that my opponent stuck to test me, I would have loved to have used Treya there. But I'd already used it failing against Saw. So I used Queen to get it, but then I spoke with a patron in their match just after, talked about the Treya idea, and that was really simple for them. The offense, you do feel the offense start to ramp on that team, but not in a way that I thought was dangerous to Treya, so just an honorable mention there.
I actually did that Treya fight against that. And it was the 501st, round 3. Just listen to what you're talking about and looking through the fight. And you don't have to do there's no fancy mechanics because you're just taking too many turns and you just get to look at them and they just go away.
You just want to make sure that you control or kill Rex first. That's like your only real banner loss opportunity is somebody getting zapped, right?
I didn't feel in any way, shape, or form that they're going to get close enough, fast enough, especially with the Nihilus Cron right now. It's just because they're all jumping in and out of turn attacks. You just look at them and then you decide, I'll kill. And that's honestly what I did. I was like, all right, I'm going to make sure that because it was Fives was on there, right? And thick Fives. All right, I need you to go. And then now let me just go ahead and just start playing with the food. And they're just hitting you back. And at no point, I think my fight was maybe a minute or something. It was nowhere long. I was nowhere in thing. And I could have stalled a minute and 50. And I could have stalled to try something back, but I was like, I don't care. I didn't need to worry about the extra banner coming back. I could easily see 4-man to get the fatal side, right? I could easily see you undermanning that team. It's cool in idea and concept, but Treya loves that stuff. She's all for you bring me all of what you want, you think you're gonna do. I know for sure Rex never even got close enough to trying to do that.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. All right. Any other comments about fighting Cody real quick? I know I'm kind of just moving through these, but stop me if you got something to say, of course.
The only thing I'll say is that it feels like, again, this is just week 1 data. I think I saw somebody get me with it and they tried it, but they did the STL team, like the Cody team, the STL team. The main teams we're facing were pretty consistent with what you were going to use. It was this other FDC setup or other team that was the one who was like, what do I want to do here? And it's like, do you try to take just enough and then it catch you? Because I wanted to try my Phoenix. I love my Phoenix against the STL team, and Princess Leia, OG Princess Leia, was not having any of that. So I tried my Phoenix on that, and that was a super fail of, well, we won't be doing that this season. So that's what it feels pretty consistent is these teams you haven't faced in a while with the DC tight end.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take it and actually give it the proper respect, it'll either pull the banners or it'll actually get you to do a drop, which is, team of 11, a team of 11, whatever. We can't be having that.
Good stuff. All right, I see we got a note here from Fatal about Leia. Now, I'll say I set Leia on defense, and I do think that I really did not feel the absence of her on attack all week. So I will say, just from my own experience, felt very comfortable having her down. And it didn't do anything for me, though. Yeah, it got marched through. So. What do you got, Fatal?
Yeah, I was just gonna shout out that I solved for Drogenkron on the offense side of things. That Wookiees can honestly maybe
That's cool.
3, but I brought 4 just to help ensure things that Wookiees got the 4-man on Leia with Drogenkron. But then as well, my Leia on defense got some pretty good action this week. I don't know if you want to pull it up in insider history or whatever, but
pull that right up. Any particular round, or just go to the last one and go from there?
I don't remember which rounds had which, but basically...
All right, this one got a hold against C. Bane in round 3, and you're setting it with Stormtrooper Han and CLS.
Yeah, so had the idea of... Well, honestly, I had the idea for Drogenkron, but I think it might even extend beyond Drogenkron because Stormtrooper Luke, I don't know if he opens with his Mass Assist or not, but I hope he does because it kind of achieves the same thing if you get him out, decently fast.
He opens up. I believe it's not a pass. He opens up with the all in.
So Stormtrooper Han's basic is 70% chance to gain, I think, 30 or 35% turn meter. And so if you hit that, he jumps his turn meter up, and his move is going to be pass turn meter to the whole allied team. And then you're up and running with Stormtrooper Han with his turn meter. And then CLS, I didn't run CLS the whole week. I don't remember who I used instead. It wasn't R2. I think I tried a couple of people.
Yeah, you've got a comp here that was CLS and Stormtrooper Luke with Stormtrooper Han, Leia, Drogon. You're in round 1.
Round 1 was just Han. That one was bad. Round two had the most impressive hold. Okay, 2 and 3 were CLS.
Yeah.
So honestly, when Leia came out, CLS I think was coded to look for a different call to action buff, and so I was under the impression this entire time, these last few years, that CLS under Leia would always be an offense stance. But I checked on a whim, and then some people in my Discord were just like, "Yeah, they fixed it shortly after Leia release." I was like, I missed that memo apparently. Luke switches back into defense stance, and defense stance CLS is infinitely better than offense stance. And so I was interested in that, and then his basic, of course, with binds all things, gives you a little bit more TM push. That I was just like, let's just see how he feels, right? Because I think CLS in defense stats sits in a fairly interesting spot, kind of similar to a JTR, or just you put a TM removal in the right time of the wrong place sort of situation. He's fairly reactive, fairly disruptive. So, round 2 got the hold against Reva. Got the hold,
and that was against the
clones.
8th Brother Crown. I'll say that. I remember doing my one Reva fight versus what was it, Saw? I think I've seen somebody do Reva versus Leia, and they almost lost. No, wait, it was me. I think I did do against Leia, and I almost lost my 7th sister. Is the point? But then with that Grand Inquisitor crown, I stabilized and got it done.
Yeah, GI Crown I think is pretty clearly the favorite over 8th Brother. Ava doesn't seem god awful. I guess people are interested in it, but GI Crown has been stupid every time it's been around, and this is no different, in my opinion.
Fair.
Got the whole Delvey clones, got the whole to Satele, was insane to me. I played Satele against Leia. That is not a difficult matchup normally, so
Lord Vader ate it. Pretty good. I like it. I'll keep that in mind myself. So you don't feel that the team lost anything essential without having R2 there?
Oh, I've been cutting R2 ever since Leia came out. I am not donating death marks to Inquisitors. Fuck that.
Fair.
R2 is okay in that squad. R2 is not that vital.
Fair. Yeah. I want to say, like, there are other cleansing things going on. Doesn't Stormtrooper Luke have a cleanse? Like, he can set himself up to go.
Yeah, I mean, Drogon's turn 1 also death marks himself. Like,
yeah,
it'll still happen. But there is a difference between it happening sometimes, occasionally, and Drogon does a mass assist, and your team just picks up like 3 death marks immediately.
Yeah.
There's a large contrast.
Yeah.
Between
Fair
those
enough. I accept that. All right. You also had a note on JMK. You said a bit of fun was had. What do you have to say about that one?
I just tossed an Echo on a random win, thinking not terribly much of it. I was just like, my Commander Tondo was cheated down on speed fairly high, and I was just like, bottom of the barrel, what dumb ideas can I have for JMK? And I looked at Echo. Echo was faster than Cat, and I was just like, I don't know. That's higher than 0. That's not nothing. And so I slapped it in. Got a hold against Jabba. Got a hold against a team to be named a later date. I'm scrolling and not finding it. Okay, I guess it was just the Jabba hold.
No, Jabba hold's good enough.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me, but I'll take it.
Yeah. That's a good mention. I appreciate that. A couple other ones I want to just quickly rattle off is that, as far as if you're fighting opponents that are saving their stranger to have something nice and clean on attack, Satele might have been homeless for you this week. And I will say, with that Asajj Dark Disciple focused Datacron still running around, you will be running into your share of Boba Fett Sign of Django teams. I am here to tell you that Satele manhandles that. I don't believe I had a 25% turn meter cron on mine. They opened up on Satele, did the prot disruption, forced the savior almost immediately. Then we got our first turn, and then they stopped having turns, and that's basically the story. I'm sure you folks in the comments will have something to share about how you might have made use with Satele otherwise. But yeah, among the many things you might use. Oh, by the way, in 3 versus 3, Queen Amidala is a pretty good counter to Boba Fett's Sign of Django. I've seen a few people here in this first week take Queen against Sign of Django team, Asajj Dark Disciple FDC, and get had. So mind that in particular. And then last on my quick notes was just I wanted to hear anything. Oh yeah, we talked about how you used Wookiees to 4 versus 5 Leia. Did anybody have any other good tales about Wookiees? I don't expect you're seeing them a lot on defense. I don't know how many of us are using them on offense, but
are you kidding me? Of course I'm saying them on defense. People are holding 30 teams for an 11 size board. Of course I'm saying that on defense. Are you insane?
You're setting them on defense?
No, I'm seeing them on defense.
Oh, seeing. Okay, seeing.
Yeah, I faced them
I'm
too.
not seeing them, so okay, fine, fair. Did anything novel you did to that, or did you just chuck Treya?
I killed him with like Zori and random shit. I don't know. That team is not good on defense. Stop doing it. And even fucking worse, tell me why people are posting Wookiees with Yoda and Chewie and not putting Zalbar in it. And you might say, well, Zalbar has some key positioning in Rey if you want to block certain stuff. They had Rey down. Zalbar wasn't in there. I checked their account. They had Zalbar at the same relic as everybody else. Where is Zalbar? Welcome to the recurring segment. Where the fuck is Zalbar?
And
this has happened multiple times.
That is unexpected. I could never fathom setting a Wookiee team without Zalbar. So that is mind-blowing in itself. All right. That is the end of my quick list, guys. Now, we've done some fine work here highlighting some of our favorite fights. Are there any other favorites that we didn't point out that you wanted to make sure that we mention here?
I only wanted to comment on one you talked about, but we didn't. I took your idea, and what I was saying is the Boba Fett sign of Django with no Jabba on the board.
Mm-hmm.
Afra has another job to do. So I was able to go in with Afra, and you've seen like this team can just, if you allow Boba and the team to just hit you up with that cron, it's nothing. Afra looked at that and just scoffed, and I almost killed him too quick. That I think I got a 62 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I was looking at what they kill right now, and I would just hazard you if they're doing something cheap, and I'll give you another one here in a second, but that I saw. What they're killing on offense, the punch up value is really strong. So I'm at like a 50-50 right now if I might keep it because it's got some good underman value. It's got some good, and we're talking like GL level killings. So I would just say go look at the data for that team because it's crazy. The one I saw Zareth do round 3 that made me really like look at it cross-eyed was old school Talzin, not the Java Talzin, but he was able. He got it from his chat to say, "Let's go try Night Sisters," and that Night Sister team came back for full banners. And I was looking at the numbers; it's 70%, and I'm sure we can work that out. But I am not cool with you being able to just go Night Sister a team that's killing GLs. That is a feels bad, man. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to make those two comments.
Oh, I appreciate that. And I guess a last note from my defense, the only hold I got all week was bottom front having great mothers. I said Morgan, Night Trooper, DTP, and Marin. He went in with Afra. That's interesting. So he killed Morgan only on this first attempt. Me, I interpreted that as him attempting Malgus. So interesting that he went whole hog here. BT1 000 IG90 and then IG88 with the IG90 focus Datacron. And yeah, in just over 2 minutes, he got closed out. And that was my only hold of note on the entire board. Okay, any other favorite fights, gentlemen? Going once, going twice. That takes us back around to takeaways and final thoughts. All right, we're here in week 2. This is a second run on the week 1 meta, right? We get a chance to perfect our learnings here from the first week before it's all disrupted by the addition of the era units next week. So, as far as my lessons, I liked the idea of setting Slacker and keeping Stranger. They're expecting it on my defense. I might have to rotate a few things such that if I do tuck Slacker in the back and not Stranger, then you just don't have an easy JMK to throw at it. Like I'll try and set you up for that, and see how it goes. But I'm still fighting. Like I expect I might have 3 weeks this season that are just like that first week. Me, Herbert, 6 Erodiums. Already happened for the first 2, so why not? And if that's the case, then all 3 of my real fights are going to be efficiency matches, for which I cannot afford to be doing no Slacker versus Ray Ezra for 53. So I've just got to tighten that up. I did have some excess materials of this orange set 26, that's about to expire at the end of this season. I had some excess materials and some level 3 crons that were light side. I did get myself a couple light side turn meters for this week. I don't have specific uses for them. I just didn't like that I literally had only one light side turn meter left as it turned out going into this week 1. So aside from that, yeah, I refined the datacrons, and yeah, look out for my Chira team this week. Over to you, TJ. How about you? Your takeaways and final thoughts going into week 2.
Yeah, obviously this won't apply to what we see next week because we'll have ISB, we'll have the Cassie team. It's going to be a fun time for everything dropping. There are things. To me, I have an amazing pod, and I know we talked about it in the beginning. I'm super excited for what we get to face, but it also terrifies me because I know I don't like stale, so I want to swap things up, and that's usually to my detriment. But it's fun for the numbers or whatever we get to do, and if I get to stream on Tassenix stream or whatever. I've got ideas of what I want to try based on things I've seen, and elevate where I can. I think there's room to place more on defense. I walked away with so many teams looking at like, am I really leaving that on the table? And it's like, yeah, there's no use for it right now, and it's not going to do me no good. And I also think the FDCs can get swapped around. Fatal called it very well, and I thought about this. It's like the Chotokron, and just let's just go make that stale. I don't think it has to be that. I think you can do something with the Wookiees like Fatal's doing. It may not be to the love he's put in, but they have a higher calling. These teams that were just assuming it's like, go put this Datacron with that team feels not the right answer. And I would just have you take a look at where adjustments you can make. We only get 11 teams, and if you really want to take a risk, I just say go do some diving, go do some dumpster diving. I think there's a lot of good data out there that you can adjust, and maybe you get to underman like what Fatal's doing. Maybe you get to do some of the cool things, but you can still up your defense, play some good questions, and then come out with a better understanding of the overall game. And I think you'll enjoy it a lot more.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. Over to you, Sasha Aisha. How about you? Your takeaways and final thoughts for week 2.
So I'll keep it short. I mean, I don't have a lot on the GAC front, but I'm having fun in the few matches I'm getting. But just overall, like my final thoughts, it goes back to just the positivity of seeing CG continue to invest in the game. The possibility of what that sandbox and test mode can become, even though maybe for a period of time we don't have the Datacron versus Datacron laboratory to work, but of Squad Arena. I'm excited that there's continued investment from CG. So that's just like a sentiment and a note that means a lot to me. I enjoy the game, and was worried that that kind of continued investment and possible future features development renovation might not be coming. So that's absolutely my takeaway, and I'll leave that positivity as my final thought.
I appreciate that. And of course, last but not least, Fatal, your takeaways and final thoughts heading into week 2. This is the part where Fatal has his mic muted.
This is the part where I unmute my mic. I still kind of have a pretty bad feeling about what this season should be / I think will be. Week 1 really just kind of felt defined by who could fuck up less. And I think as people are shaking off week 1 stuff and knowing how risk averse everyone plays, I'm sure everyone's going to look at it inside and be like, all right, this is the one that wins the most. So I'm just going to pull everything and use all the 99% counters. I think the amount of margin to make mistakes is going to go down significantly. So yeah, it was nice to have some cushion in week 1, but I think this is going to be an extremely cheesy season. And there's some counters that I want to try that I don't know for sure if they are safe. And I suspect in some ways they are not. And so I suspect that there are going to be some matches where, yeah, maybe I try a counter that fails and then my opponent's holding 30 teams and they just drop 0 battles like they should. And that will just be the end of that. We will see. But I do think... the fact that certain crons only get 1 run in 5v5 is tripping me up so badly. I will have to review, because we're like with the current Datacron cadence, there is very much a feeling of, okay, am I gaining information for 2 seasons, or is this like I try this at the start of week 2, and then by the end of week 3, it's gone? Is like a weird thing to have to navigate. So I guess I'll have to double check on the teams that I'm concerned about, and because like Balin is one. Is like, well, Balin doesn't return next 5v5. Balin is a double 3v3 crown, and that's weird because he's very much better in 5v5. But Yeah, we'll see. It'll be weird to navigate that because I am very much in information gathering mode right now. Just trying to, now the Rollcrons are gone, just trying to reel into play, relearn to get extra banners and all that good stuff, and kind of zeroing in on where the weak spots are. And yeah, as everyone else stops dropping battles, I think the major test for me is just going to be learning when to just seal the deal. Because right now I'm kind of just trying to do my best against every team, and I do think for the sake of winning sometimes there is something to be said for just 65ing the rest and closing out. So I think that'll be a near future balance. But yeah, we'll see.
All right. Looking forward to seeing that. And of course, you're going to be streaming this week. Where can the good people find you?
Twitch.tv/PlaybookTV, YouTube.com/ThePlaybook.
Sounds great. All right. Well, of course, thank you, gentlemen, for making the time for being here with me this week. And thanks to Dagger for joining us in the earlier section. Really great that we could have his thoughts about the suite of changes coming at us from CG. And yeah, we've got data to look at for this first week and the opportunity to perfect things here moving forward. So looking forward to that. Of course, if you want to catch me live, you already know the place to do that is twitch.tv/Tassenix. I also simulcast from my YouTube channel, Tassenix Gaming, where, if you've not been there before, please check it out. Whole bunch of Sword-related content that I think you'll be interested in. Stuff like the How-To Mod Guide series, building up your mod collection from scratch, the mod guides on characters and factions you've asked about, my previous Grand Arena VODs with chapters added, and of course, it's a rebroadcasting point for this very show, Plotting and Scheming, which is native to Spotify. But wherever you catch an episode, check the description. There's a link that you can use to plug into your preferred podcast program and follow us that way. Anything that you enjoyed over there on the YouTube, please hit like, hit subscribe to the channel to see more. Follow me on Twitch. All great ways to support the channel for free. And I do appreciate it. The channels still are growing, so I appreciate the growing interest. Of course, if you want to go above and beyond the call of duty to support the stream, there are a few ways to do so. I do have a Cash App, that is $Tassenix. I have a PayPal, that is tassenix@gmail.com. And if you're interested in getting some early access to my content, including Plotting and Scheming, a dedicated Discord chat section, text and voice where I'm usually hanging out, and a few other benefits, you might be interested in becoming a patron. Check out patreon.com/Tassenix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest for you. At $5 a month, you enter the Tass House at VIP access level, where you get early access to the Plotting and Scheming show that is coming out to our general audience Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern. Patrons have it as early as Monday or Tuesday night, depending on when we sit down to record, giving you early insight going into the first round of the week. I will occasionally make patron-exclusive videos that you'll have at least a month ahead of the general public. And of course, like I mentioned, a dedicated area for you guys on Discord where I am generally hanging out. So pop on in and say hi. Thank you so much to all of my patrons here at VIP Access. At $10 a month, you have VIP Access Plus, which is a bundled Patreon access to me and to your choice of either OmegaBot or Hot Utils Patreon. OmegaBot's that tool that I highlight at the start of all of my Grand Arena streams. It's the one with the graphs that give you an easily understood sense of your opponent's offensive and defensive tendencies. Anybody can use that tool for free to scout their opponent's last week of Grand Arena history, but only patrons can build out a custom report with any number of weeks. You get a downloadable HTML version of that report, and when you open it up and you click the embedded links in there, it'll take you right back into Swugga.gg or Insight with data pre-sorted, just helping you further minimize and focus your scouting efforts. Alternatively, you may be interested in the Hot Utils Patreon, aka Chili subscription, which is your #1 tool for mass mod management and loadout creation. Nothing else lets you switch so easily between your Grand Arena, TB, TW, and Raid mods. You can use it like TJ and Fatal do to comprehensively remod your roster with the powerful automation feature. You can help out your guild in TW, slice through hundreds of mods in seconds, and so much more. There's no wrong way to go at VIP Access Plus. Thank you to all of my patrons here. VIP Access Premium is $15 a month for the Double Bot Bundle. So Patreon access for me, OmegaBot, and Hot Utils all in one price. Going out and getting those two bots anywhere else costs the same as this triple bundle, which is why so many of my patrons say it is one of the best values in the game. Thank you to all of my patrons here at VIP Access Premium. I know you guys enjoy the double bots. All right, at the top of the list, Ingesters Club Elite, the one, the only Nomad's Reaper, a madman who occasionally drops in and just goes crazy, giving out hundreds of subs, thousands of biddies, incredibly generous support over the years. Thank you so much, sir. And of course, Pills, who likewise usually shows up towards the end of the streams, but, gives out 10 gift subs here, 100 gift subs there. I never quite know what to expect from Pills, but it is always generous and it is always appreciated. Thank you so much. Special thanks goes out to the Lost Womp Rat, one of my patrons who's gone above and beyond the Call of Duty, not just for me, but for the community at large, helping all of us out with our IT and computer-related issues. Just recently got me back up live on stream. I was supposed to be on Twitch and YouTube, but it was only working on Twitch, and he got me sorted out in a jiff. So as always, Womp, thank you for the time and attention. To Mrs. T, my wife, thank you for all you do in the background, whether that's bringing me something to eat or drink while I'm, recording a video or live on stream, or just keeping our daughter from tearing the house apart while I'm trying to be the very best like no one ever was at a phone game. I appreciate you. And of course, to my co-hosts here on Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha, Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, as always, it is my pleasure and privilege to record our show every week. Despite the pressures of work, family, raising kittens, whatever the situation may be, you guys still show up every episode. And I learn from every one of these gatherings, so thank you guys. I hope you occasionally feel the same. But it is not about us. It is about the community showing up for our show, the folks tuning in. It is rare that a day goes by that I don't get some type of comment or DM thanking us for the conversations that we're having on the show. Folks are picking up tidbits from our discussions, applying them in their own grand arena, and it's helping them win the day. So nearly 3 years on, thank you guys so much for being part of this show, and I wouldn't change a thing. That brings us right back around to the beginning. So you've made it to the bitter end. Should be a tightrope walk, I think, this week for me, and perhaps a little more so for you too as people refine what they're doing. Still, a couple surprises left to pull on a board that only has so much space. And yeah, get ready for the disruption that will come with the release of the Andor era units in week 3. Until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. It's been real awesome. Take care.